I'm the Director of International Baccalaureate Programs at Harlem Village Academy High School. I'm an architect of full IB for all programs. I'll send it to my colleague Clay.
Thank you, David. My name is Clay Hensley. I am in my third week of working as senior recognition manager for the U.S. at the IB, but I'm a bit more. You can tell by my gray hair, I'm a bit more seasoned than that. I've been working for the IB for several years, but I've also worked in the past for Cambridge on consulting projects and for AP for over 2 decades. So I'll pass it over to my colleague Antrina. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Already, Clay.
Wonderful.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antrina Leith. I also work for the International Baccalaureate Organization. I've been with them for about 9 years now, and my title is Senior IB World School Manager and Development Manager. And basically, I support the onboarding of IB schools in the K-12 educational space. So any schools that have adopted an IB program in the last 9 years, I've been their support person to get them through that process. Thank you. Oh, am I to kick it to
So
someone
we
else?
can pass it over to Suzanne McGurk.
Thank you, Angelica. Hello, I'm Suzanne McGurk. I am Senior Director of AP Higher Education at the College Board, and I have been there about 14 years now. Oh, 15 in May, so I guess closer to 15. Um, I will kick it over to my colleague, Jackie Giordano.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Giordano. I work in our strategic higher ed unit at the College Board, and I'm Suzanne's counterpart, and I work with enrollment leaders across the Northeast.
And then we'll hand it over lastly to our colleagues in Cambridge with Nancy.
Oh, good morning. I was expecting us to go in alphabetical order. Greetings from Washington State. I am absolutely delighted and thrilled to be working for Cambridge University Press and Assessments as our higher education implementation manager. It is my incredible privilege and joy to work with colleges and universities around our country in terms of helping them to implement, understand, and do all sorts of good things for students who have Cambridge credentials. And I'd like to introduce my buddy Jimmy, who's going to be doing the presentation today.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Jimmy Bishop. I'm the Higher Education Manager for the Northeast US in Canada. And I work with institutions with anything they need from Cambridge or AICE. And I'll talk a little bit about what that terminology is in our presentation. And I am just a 5-minute walk from John Jay.
Great. Thank you guys for sharing. We're so excited and honored to have all of you here presenting to our CUNY faculty and staff. And so I'm going to hand it back over to my supervisor, Alyssa Vine, and she is going to briefly discuss the purpose of our session today.
Thanks, Angelica. So, I think that we we don't take time often enough to think about the standardized exam aspect of CUNY CPL policy. As most of you are aware, we have had the CPL policy here at CUNY for almost 6 years. It was passed by the Board of Trustees in June of 2020. And since then, implementation has been ongoing. And one really important part of the policy is the only mandated part of CUNY's policy relates to 6 standardized exam programs. And we have 3 of them here with us today. And the common theme in all of them is that they are all serving high school students and providing college level coursework to students during their high school career. 3 really different ways of doing that, which we'll learn more about today. But CUNY's policy does specify that for qualifying scores on these exam programs, or in the case of IB and AICE, we're also thinking about the diplomas that students earn through those institutions. And so all of your colleges, any student who comes in with qualifying scores must receive credit. And it is up to the academic department to decide what the what the most appropriate equivalent course is, and to award credit for that. And back in I think 2021, the university provided all colleges with specific guidance and templates for setting up equivalencies for standardized exams, for all of the standardized exams included in the policy. And some colleges really dove into that work and established equivalencies for every exam. Some have done it on a more ongoing basis upon request from students, or bit by bit. And in either case, though, I think that we haven't necessarily come back to this aspect of our policy, and asked colleges to look at it again, think about it a little more deeply. We've shared information over time, but we haven't necessarily really circled back to make sure that that the folks at our campuses today who are responsible for this work have a really firm understanding of what these programs represent, what the students who are coming in with qualifying scores, what that learning really means. There have been some changes, some adaptations, new exams, new offerings. So bringing these colleagues from these three organizations together today is a chance for us to kind of have an update, and for us to come away with a more concrete understanding of what it means for a student to present qualifying coursework or scores from these programs. So really appreciate everybody taking the time to be with us here today. And Angelica, I'll hand it back to you to talk over the goals for the session.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that context behind the scoring and exams that we are going to learn about. But the point of or in focus of our session today is to learn about what the current landscape is for these three standardized exam programs. So the focus is to hopefully gain a clearer understanding of how the levels and the scoring should be assessed and evaluated, and where the credit applicability should be modified or reviewed. And also, we want to encourage the college campuses to review the existing credit equivalencies that they have in place so that it stays up to date and consistent as the changes happen with these organizations and these exams, to best suit the needs of the students as these exams are growing and expanding, which we will learn from our colleagues. So, some of the key topics, again, we're going to learn about new and forthcoming exams. So, an eye towards the future of what's coming for AP, IB, and Cambridge ACE. What we're looking at in terms of growth for our New York City public high schools or charter schools, and how to, again, accurately interpret these scores and understand where alignment is in current academic programs, and again, credit applicability. So I'm going to hand it over first to our colleagues Susan and Jacqueline in AP College Board.
Thanks, Angelica. Jackie and I are both very glad to be with you. And just a quick reminder, I'm Suzanne and Jackie. We've both been at the College Board, I think 14, 15 years. I do want to talk just a quick moment. Before I came to the College Board, I was a registrar. And so I've been in your shoes and tried to keep up with all the demands of policy. And I know this isn't the only policy that you're trying to keep up to date. So I really appreciate the time and attention that you all are paying to this particular policy. It seems like often that if something's not on fire, you just don't have time to pay attention to it. So making the time to do this is really something that I applaud. These are easy to get out of date every time faculty members change a course, end a course. Sometimes it's out of the catalog, but not out of your policies, or just getting new, fresh eyes on a policy can be something very notable that you need to do. So thank you very much for taking this time and effort and putting it into these policies that are so important to your students. So now to our agenda. So we have, we're going to look at CUNY and AP, introducing new AP courses, and then AP overtime. We can go to the next slide. And the first one we're going to look at about CUNY and AP, and we'll start with by the numbers. So by the numbers, in 2025, 6,088 high school graduates sent 18,242 AP exam scores of 3 and above to CUNY institutions. So that breakdown, 8,771 scores of 3, 6,408 scores of 4, 3,063 scores of 5. So those are the ones that you're awarding on. And then we had 6,835 scores of 3 that were from low-income students. CUNY's AP students in the 2025 cohort showed strong growth, 20% growth in areas of test taker sending scores, the number of scores they sent, and the number of those scores that were 3 and above. Now, also in this realm of CUNY by the numbers, the top 10 exam titles that were sent to CUNY: number 1, U.S. History; number 2, English Language and Composition; number 3, English Literature and Composition; number 4, World History Modern; number 5, U.S. Government and Politics; number 6, Psychology; number 7, Biology; number 8, Calculus AB; number 9, Computer Science Principles; and number 10, Environmental Science. Why am I throwing those out? If you have to focus on certain ones, to make sure you focus on the ones that have the most scores being sent to your institutions. Also, I thought it was notable, CUNY received exam scores from 35 states besides New York. Thought that was very interesting. And the last by the numbers, CUNY received 13,401 AP scores of 3 and above from low-income students. And here's something we're really proud of at the College Board. We provide a $53 discount on exam fees for any low-income student. No paperwork is needed from the student. All that's needed is for the AP coordinator to claim this on behalf of the student. In New York public schools, the difference between the $99 fee and the $53 discount from us is covered by the state in subsidies. So exams are free in public high schools for low-income students, and I think that's very notable. We're really proud of the work we do to work with legislatures to help them dedicate funds for low-income students, and we're very proud of the money that we put aside for low-income students also. Now, that's a nice segue into New York public schools. We know CUNY has a great partnership with New York Public Schools. These are students that often enroll in your institutions. So when we think of these students, think about ways to improve your AP credit policy. Take note that their top 5 exams are English Language and Composition, U.S. History, World History Modern, English Literature, U.S. Government, and Politics. So there's a perfect alignment with CUNY's top exams, since New York Public Schools top exams are a subset of CUNY's top exams. A bit more data about courses and exams that are growing across New York Public Schools that you may want to cross-check against your policy as you do your review. AP African American Studies, one of our newest courses, so it's possible you may have missed adding this one. They had 1,633 scores of 3 and above in this last cohort in 2025. This reflects a growth of 121% over the prior year. These classes are still growing. The enrollment is doubling every year right now in AP African American Studies. AP Pre-Calculus, also very popular at New York Public Schools, was released the same year as AP African American Studies. It was 2 years ago. It had the largest first-year launch of any AP course ever at over 175,000 students. New York Public Schools had 3,405 scores of 3 and above last year, and that was a 44% growth in scores of 3 and above. And the last course I want to mention is AP Seminar. Exams administered grew by 41%, and scores of 3 and above grew to 2,791, which was a 35% growth. These are courses to watch, as we know AP students are much more likely to enroll where they can get credit for their AP exams. Now to the last data on New York Public Schools. They had a 5.7% increase in exams that were administered, and a whopping 18.8% increase in qualifying scores of 3 and above. So you may be seeing more AP students with qualifying scores from New York Public Schools. And now let's talk about CUNY and AP. And Alyssa, you scooped me on talking about the age of the policy. I had this in here, so thanks for the foreshadowing. So I just want to call out that also I just want to call out that all of the data that I pulled about CUNY, all those statistics, those were pulled from an annual AP report that just came out this week. It's available for free. You can just email Jackie or me. These are made for each institution that receives AP scores. So the data that's made for the whole system around CUNY, we also make these reports for each institution that's part of CUNY. So you can find out what your top 10 exams are. You can find out how many scores you received, all the breakdowns about race, ethnicity, everything. Are you receiving more scores than last year, less scores? All of that data is available to you, and we're very glad to provide that to you as well. And let's continue on with CUNY and AP information. So again, the policy has been in place for 5 years and calls for all exams be awarded for a score of 3. So it's very, using the CUNY Explorer, it's one of my favorite tools. I wish every system in the country had one of these tools because they don't, but it's so transparent. And transparency is one of the key things about a strong policy. Um, it is invaluable for parents and students, and you make it so easy to find. You put so much work into your policies, and then voila, you make them easy to find. So many people put a lot of work into their policies and then nobody can find them. It's useless. But CUNY is not like that. You make it easy to find, you make it easy to digest. It's very clear, and that's just something that is not a given at so many other places. So I really applaud you for the work that you put into that. The courses are there. It's very consistent, easy to use. So I just really want to make sure you understand all of your hard work really pays off for students and parents who can figure out how to use it. In terms of collaborations, I just want to say that while we're doing this type of presentation for your whole system, we're also glad to work with your campuses one-on-one. So as this work unfolds for you, if you're like, okay, that made sense at the moment, but now I'm not exactly what to do on my campus, if you'd like to reach out to Jackie or to me, I'm very glad to work with you on a one-on-one basis when it's time to do this work and look at your policy and you're like, what did she say about African American studies? Or how can I figure this out? Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And the work that I do is very specific to AP and to credit policy, but I also want to give my collaborator, Jackie, a chance to talk about the work that she does with campuses.
Thanks, Suzanne. So again, I'm Jackie, and I work with enrollment leaders. So I've been at the board almost 16 years. And prior to that, spent 21 years in enrollment leadership at 3 different colleges. And I'm based in Massachusetts. So my role is really working with enrollment leaders, admission offices to help them understand maybe what new courses are coming along, how many students are participating in them, what they can expect from a student who's participated in any of these courses, and when they might expect to see them on transcripts as they're reviewing admission applications and how they might think about those. So really working on the front end of the colleges while Suzanne's working, on the student success side and an opportunity for credit side. So we play off each other really, really well, and hope that, any of you who would like to have a conversation with us individually, we're happy to be there. So I will turn it back to Suzanne.
Thanks, Jackie. And we mean that very sincerely. So if you need help, please don't hesitate. And we can go to the next slide. So new courses coming to you, to everyone. So we have AP Business with Personal Finance, and we also have AP Cybersecurity. And these are part of a new category of courses that we'll be introducing over the next few years called AP Kickstart. Career Kickstart. And these are courses that are going into the career education world, trying to prepare students for college and careers specifically, and also trying to attract a new group of students to to the AP world. What we've seen is we introduce new courses, and if Jackie and I were at the same high school and she were an AP student, and a new course comes to the high school, and Jackie already has 5 AP courses, and a new course comes, she gets 6, and I still don't get any. So what we're trying to do is to offer new types of courses so that new students might go, cybersecurity, I've always wanted cybersecurity. And you stand up and you raise your hand and you say, I want to be an AP student now. So we're trying this to see if we can introduce more students into the AP world. We're not trying to get every student to take as many AP courses as they can. Our goal as an organization is to get students who are not taking any AP students to get to at least one AP course. And we're trying to get students who are taking one to get to up to 5, maybe 6. But our goal is capped right there. And I don't mean per year, I mean over your high school career. We've seen the greatest advantages and benefits for AP students once they're in college. Those post-secondary outcomes are the benefits are at one. Like the greatest benefits happen with one AP exam. Then there are more benefits if you take 2, 3, up to 5, but they level off at 5 or 6 AP exams. So we would rather spread that wealth out across more students than have the same students get more and more and more, like spread that wealth. So that's our goal with AP. But I do want to just list a couple of the other new courses here. I know I mentioned them earlier, but we are trying to truly grow these courses, and we've seen a lot of success with them so far. But these are ones that we really think introduce new students into the AP world. And once they have success here, they're more likely to go on and take more. So I also want to mention in New York public schools, we've had 200 educators so far express interest in offering business with personal finance this fall, and 150 have stepped forward to say that they're interested in offering AP cybersecurity. So you can expect some scores coming your way in the summer of 27. So it is important to go ahead and start thinking about credit now, because these schools do want to know that there is an expectation for their students to get credit and what that credit will be now so that students are willing to take the courses. So I know it does seem like a chicken and egg proposition, but we do hope that you'll go ahead and put some credit on the book so that these students will know what they can expect.
Suzanne, can I add one thing about
Please
AP
do.
Business with Personal Finance? This has been, so state of New York, starting in the fall, all high schools have to offer personal finance to their students. And AP Business with Personal Finance is one of the approved ways they can offer personal finance to their students. So we do expect a pretty large addition of high schools in New York offering this course. So I don't want to tell you not to prioritize AP cybersecurity, but we expect a pretty big uptick of this course. So as you think about that, maybe putting that one at the forefront of thinking about how you're going to manage credit.
Thanks, Jackie. And we can go to the next slide. And this is just a quick look of all of our exams. And I know we're getting close on time, so we can just skip ahead here and here. And then this is just some quick information. This is why students are valuing AP. I think that this is all self-evident. This helps students take these rigorous courses. It builds skills that not only help them while they're in high school, but it also builds skills that help them while they're in college. The credit, of course, is one of those things that students want. They want credit. We know they're more likely to choose a college that offers and honors their AP credit, awards them credit. We know they use it for admissions. We think there are a lot of advantages to students to get AP credit. We can go on to the next slide. I think that the reason students like AP is very evident. They like all the things. But why does higher ed value AP? I think the reason they do is a lot of it reflects what the benefits for students. But think about students who come into your classrooms prepared. They have the critical thinking skills. They have the writing skills. they are going to perform well in the next course in the sequence. But the thing that I think higher ed doesn't always think about, particularly faculty, that they think they've given away credit in their department, that those students are more likely to generate more credits and more credentials in those departments where they had success in their AP subjects. So while they might not be in that first course, they're more likely to be in many more courses after that first one. Students are more likely to have higher GPAs in the first year. They're more likely to be retained. They're more likely to graduate closer to on time, less debt afterwards so they can pay off their student loans, all the things that help the higher ed on a side that's more long term than short term. I think we're going to wrap up there because I think we've run past our time. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Suzanne and Jackie. And if there are questions, we will have a portion for Q&A after all three organizations have presented. So you can feel free to drop any questions in the chat and we will address everything after our last presentation. So we're going to hand it over to IB, or our colleagues in the International Baccalaureate. So Clay, you can take over.
Thank you. Thank you, Angelica. Next slide, please. Always a pleasure to work with Suzanne and Jackie on collaborative initiatives. I just wanted to include who we are. And in the next few slides, we have about 15 slides. So we're going to go, our pace is going to be pretty rapid here, but you'll have access to these slides, and we have a set of resources with hyperlinks to key information in the appendix. But my role will be to guide us through this conversation. I'm kind of like a play-by-play announcer. I moved to New York to be an artist. Actually, in fact, I'm going to Beirut tonight for an opening of a friend, Zhao Guao. My wife is a Hunter graduate. She works for New York City schools and sends a lot of kids to your schools. So she's putting pressure on me to really get strong recognition because she's working with IB kids. I'm coming from Brooklyn and not so far from Brooklyn College and Medgar Evers. But the color and commentary and context will come from my colleagues Antrina Leith and David Quinn, who work directly with the schools. And next slide, Angelica, and I'll allow David and Antrina to jump in. So this is talking about the current scale and anticipated growth of the IB within New York City. We're not as big as AP. We're a full curriculum that takes a great commitment and alignment of values to offer. So we're a bit smaller, but growing at a strong trajectory. And next slide. And Antrina, I'd like to invite you to give us a bit of context regarding the footprint of the IB and its history and origin story within New York City as we go into transcript numbers. Antrina.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Clay, and thank you, everyone. And so I've had the privilege of supporting, like I indicated earlier, the onboarding of schools interested in offering international baccalaureate programs. And just for those who may not be aware, IB actually starts at age 3. A school can offer an IB education while that doesn't culminate in the end of 5th grade or, for example, maybe in the middle school and what looks like credits. What it does is build students to develop those critical skills and experiences and really put deep meaning into being like a whole child involved into their teaching and learning practices to help that readiness when they get to that bookend experience. So in New York City in particular, there has been a growth of over 50% in programs that were offered. Starting back from 2016, we've seen that number of schools doubled, with a large number of those schools really being at the primary years program level and the middle years program level, which is elementary school and middle school. And what that has resulted in is a really robust conversation. And how do we increase the number of high schools throughout the boroughs in New York City currently offering programs to provide opportunities for families And this is somewhat at the request of families to say, yes, we want our child to have a K-12 opportunity for an IB experience. And so I think that might come later in this,
Yeah,
where we
and
have.
Trina, and we've had a lot of growth, in all across all boroughs. But David Quinn, you and at Harlem Villages Academy, have been doing IB. I wanted you to jump in and tell us about how it works within in a school. If you could add something there, David.
Sure. I mean, one of the most essential elements of a strong IB education is to ensure that it's equitable and to make sure that students have access to it across our boroughs. And we see that the growth is occurring now across the tri-state and across the city. Ensuring that students have proper placement after they're completing these courses is super important to us. And as somebody who has worked, I work on kind of three sides of the coin here, if there's such a thing. I'm both the director of academics. I'm currently running our college advising program, but I'm also somebody who's worked with legislatures to develop statewide crediting programs. And what we see is students who are really active shoppers as they are considering where to go. And so you kind of even see this on the transcript trends. 5% of total institutional push is going to the CUNYs. The question is, who is going to get these IB students as they begin to emerge in larger numbers from public schools across the tri-state area?
And currently, in our database, we list CUNY as a system. So, what a goal of ours, an outcome of this meeting that we would like to see is that we break it out and we promote all of you within our recognition database separately because we know students are considering and applying to all of you. But as a system, CUNY attracts more IB students from the tri-state area than any other single institution. Other SUNYs come close, Binghamton, Buffalo, which does recognize all SL coursework. And we're talking about in this catchment about 180 schools within those three states. That's the entire state, but within the traditional tri-state, that would be the majority of those schools. Let's go. I will note that though that those numbers are plateauing or even slowing. Let's go to the next slide. And CUNY depends upon a handful of the, particularly New York City, and then that Long Island, Yonkers, greater tri-state. You're a bit dependent there compared to others. And what we're seeing is that out of region and, particularly colleges like Northeastern, University of South Carolina are starting to attract these students. And so we think part of that is due to policies. And Trina, David, I'd like for you to jump in there about that. Students seeking that return on their significant intellectual investment and why CUNY policies are so important. David, I'll let you start.
Well, I think, when we're talking about who an IB student is, it's somebody who's compassionate and dedicated to academics, regardless of whether they're taking one IB class or a number of IB classes. There's a real distinction. I think we often put it in our minds that we're only talking about students who are doing the full international baccalaureate diploma, but the IB allows students to take individual courses as well. And so this student is out there really giving great thought to where they want to go. And when they look at policies across the nation and across our region, they see some that create real disparate value for them, some that seem to be not really updated to the extent that they should be, because I'd like to think about, I used to think about this on the West Coast in a certain way, but I think about it from an equitable perspective, that if you are a student who is living in the Bronx and is kind of there and doesn't want to commute across three boroughs to go to another CUNY, you might be seeing a larger value for your IB classes than a student perhaps in Staten Island or in Queens who is looking at their local CUNY school, the amazing, value that they have, but they might not be getting the same credit that they could get if they actually just left and went someplace else. We see this both across the city and across the state, but we also see it across the Americas writ large. There are large public research institutions that are providing SL and HL credit at a standard score of 4, whereas CUNY is asking students to achieve a score of 6 points over the amount that you need to even get an IB diploma to be considered for certain forms of credit.
Let's go
It's
on to the
puzzling.
next slide. And then we can talk. David was essential. Next slide, please, Angelica. And David was essential in collaborating. And, when I was at AP, this was part of, work that we all participated in too, of getting these state policies, particularly in Washington State. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But, and Trina, that growth is in part because of the mission, vision, values, and that alignment with the vision of New York City, New York State. The New York State profile of a graduate really matches our learner profile. Kamar Samuels, Chancellor Samuels, who's come out of District 13, which is what happens to be where my wife works. That's more than doubled their programs. And Trina, can you talk a little bit about that alignment of values?
Yeah, I can. Thanks, Clay. So the IB is working very closely with the state of New York, and of course that will trickle down to the city on what does that crosswalk look like, as you have the image up there of the portrait of a graduate that has been released, and the authenticity on how that really aligns with the framework and a lot of the pedagogy around IB. So I think the big takeaway is we understand that this is where they want students to go in the state, but also specifically in the city, and working on crosswalk and alignment documents to be able to help school communities see what that looks like, even in their IB courses, specifically in their IB courses, but in the experience as a learner, K-12.
Wonderful. Let's go forward and close this out because we want to leave a lot of time for Jimmy and a lot of time for questions. But why is IB different? And Trina has hit upon this, David has hit on this, but I just want to say the global education, the experiential learning, all things that are reflected within the CUNY mindset. So what students are doing in our classrooms really reflects what they're doing in CUNY classrooms with an aligned curriculum that's broad, balanced, conceptual, and connected. Teaching and learning is key to that. Next slide, please. I'll skip over this, but just know you'll have it. Our persistent rates are well higher than the U.S. average. So this is all based on key research and outcomes. And that's also true not only of persistence, but of retention. In the next slide, Angelica. Our 4-year and 6-year graduation rates well above other programs and the U.S. average. Next slide, and we'll get to. So the difference, I just wanted to point this out very quickly. I'm available to answer any questions for individual campuses, but sometimes there is confusion regarding the difference between a standard level and a higher level. If it was up to me, we would not name these courses that, but standard levels are more like AP. AP typically is that, well, usually closer to about 100 hours of instructional time. SLs are 150 hours. HLs usually delivered over 2 years are much deeper. So that's one reason we see the difference. Next slide, please. And then but the scale of SL coursework, especially as we move into both public schools in the US and schools in the global South, places like Nigeria, Ghana, South Asia, India, these growth areas, they are embracing SL a bit more than HL. Next slide. So you're going to see this both from New York City students and students internationally. We partnered with the American Council on Education, ACE, a peer organization, to review the 20 most commonly enrolled SL courseworks in the U.S., including TOK, and they recommend strongly that 3 credit hours on a semester system be granted for scores of 4 or higher out of 7. So this is what we think is the benchmark. And indeed, next slide, just to give you a sense of what CUNY is doing, well, what other states are doing, peer states, both blue, red, and purple from Illinois. Again, kudos to David for helping foster the policy in Washington, which is longstanding. Newer policies include Ohio, let's see, Missouri, Indiana. We also, Georgia and Virginia, very strong policy. So peer states around the country do this, but also we're finding in CUNY, next slide, that even with that base policy, we feel not necessarily being where it should be. We're finding that most CUNY institutions, including 6 of the 11 senior colleges and 15 overall, do grant basically what is that ACE recommendation. This includes Baruch, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Hunter, and Lemon, Queens, as well as these great community colleges and the 2 schools, the School of Labor and Urban Studies and School of Professional Studies. We want everyone to get there. So City College is not quite there, neither is City Tech, Medgar Evers, or York. work. These are ones that, if you're in the audience, I would love to contact you to get you where these other colleges are. Next slide. This is an example of what's on that great database that my friend Suzanne mentioned. And the course coding may be different, but essentially their students are getting the same amount of credit. And then lastly, next slide, we'll finish up with CUNY is currently represented in our recognition portal only as a system. My second goal is to work with you individually to get each campus onto our site so that IB students are finding you. I'll close there, and then David and then Truth can then jump in regarding our questions after Jimmy presents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys so much. The wealth of information. And just so you guys know, we will be providing all of the contact information for all the presenters at the end. We will also be sharing out this PowerPoint so you guys can have this for future reference, and you can contact any of our colleagues directly and hopefully continue the collaboration or expand on the work that is already being done at your campuses. So we're going to hand it over lastly to Jimmy and Nancy from Cambridge.
Right, thank you so much. And so, much like Clay and Suzanne mentioned, at any point, if you want to reach out to us, feel free to go ahead and do that. So we are the newest, oldest new kid on the block. So I'm going to provide a little bit of background information on who we are. Then I'll go into some alignment on our courses, the differences between our AS and our A levels, and then provide a couple of resources for you all as well. But as I mentioned, we're pretty old, but we're newer within the United States and newer within New York State and New York City. We're over 160 years old. We are a part of the University of Cambridge, so yes, that is the Cambridge in our name. And we work with institutions around the world. We have 10,000 schools worldwide, but again, quite new here in the US. We can go ahead and advance as well. And much like IB, we have a full pathway as well that goes all the way down to ages 3. But we're really going to focus on that last one, the Cambridge Advance in the red there. And so that is encompassing of our AS and A levels as well as our ACE diploma. And so we'll advance to the next slide. And then the next one, yeah. And so the ACE diploma, or when you were referred to as Cambridge ACE, this is where that terminology comes from. So I wanted to talk briefly about this and what that means. So we do have a diploma program. It is called the ACE Diploma, the Advanced International Certificate of Education. And so this is available to students in the US if their schools opt into this. It's really a program that right now we see coming out of Florida, much because it is tied to the Bright Future Scholarship in Florida. So it is comprised of AS or A-level courses. But that is where that terminology ACE comes from. We prefer to go by Cambridge. And so I'll refer to us as such moving forward. And we'll advance to the next slide as well. And so our courses, we have over 55 different courses at the advanced level. So that's the AS and the A levels. Our AS level courses are 1-year courses. They're about 180 contact hours. And then continuing on from that, students could do a second year in that subject, which would be the A level. So students can sit for their standalone AS level examinations, and then they would take an additional year. Most of the students that you will see coming from the United States are only going to be doing those AS level courses. And I'll talk a little bit about that alignment later as well. We're really excited about our courses. They are much more geared towards students showing mastery of their content. So we really minimal use of multiple choice questions. It is much more like a college blue book. So students are given multiple choice, or it's not multiple choice, multiple part questions, and then we assess them based on rubrics as well. One other area that we really enjoy and our students and teachers enjoy as well is that our physical sciences also include physical lab practicals as part of their assessments as well. So that's something that we really find value in, and that we really encourage universities to consider giving the lab credits when they're giving credits for their physical sciences as well. We can go ahead and advance. And here's just a quick glimpse of our courses. They're divided by those ACE diploma subject areas there. And we can just advance to the next slide as well. And so some quick numbers. So just last year, we had over 700,000 Cambridge AS and A-level examinations. I believe that numbers actually should be higher. This should just be from our June series. So we have a couple of smaller series for other parts of the world as well. And then at the bottom, you can see our numbers here specifically in the US. And so you can see that the AS level exams really do shine in the United States. A lot of that has to do with how we're structured, how we fit into pre-existing course schedules on high school campuses as well. So CUNY already gives credit for the AS and the A levels at a grade of E or higher. And so I won't focus too much on that, but you will see mostly those AS level students here. I know for your international students that you've received or from any returning students, I've worked with some campus and we have some returning students that have immigrated from other countries with Cambridge credentials. Those students typically have our A levels as well. And we can advance to the next slide. As I mentioned, we are quite new within the area, so we're the smallest, but we're pretty mighty, and we have a team here in the States and in New York City as well. So I just wanted to highlight that this year, actually, we'll have our first set of students in New York City public schools testing. They're in the process of registering for those examinations now. So if you connect with me later, I can give you more specifics about the specific schools, the numbers that the number of students that'll be testing in those schools, the particular subjects that they're testing for as well. So we're in that process of registration right now. We're in 3 boroughs currently, though we're in the process of onboarding more schools in all the boroughs as well. So we're very, very excited to be partnering with New York City Public Schools and CUNY to make seamless pathways possible for our students. And we can progress. And so now I'll talk a little bit about the alignment and sort of how do you consider what an AS and an A level is. Very quickly, this is our grading scale. So you're already giving credits at the E or higher. Just one note there is that, a C is not a C for us. I always say if we used hearts, stars, and horseshoes, there would be no confusion about what our grades are, but we use that A to E scale, which is quite similar to that A to F scale that we're used to in the United States. And so for us, any student receiving a grade is a passing grade. So if they are not passing, the student does not receive a grade. The course will not show up on their transcript unless they asked for it to be. So we can advance. And so understanding what our courses are and how they really align to a U.S. educational system. So as I mentioned, we're part of the University of Cambridge. We are really patterned on sort of British education as well. And so I think the best way to think of this is really that the A-level programs were created as preparation for a 3-year bachelor's program in the United Kingdom. And so when we break down what that looks like, really that AS level year would be 1 year of study in the high school and then a 2nd year of study for the A level. And those 2 years of preparation align to what would be a first year for a 4-year US bachelor's program. So you could consider that AS level year to be sort of your 101 course, and then the continuation, that A level year would be the 102 course. And so students are receiving or should be receiving credit sort of in that light, moving into U.S. higher education. In the high school, students tend to take those as early as 10th grade with the AS level. So typically doing 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, depending on those particular subject areas. We also do have what we call IGCSE courses. You may see some of those from our international students. When we offer our programs to schools, we do offer the IGCSEs as well, or O levels, if you're familiar. So it's a similar thing. Schools in the US typically do not test for those IGCSEs, but they may be teaching the course and teaching the content as well. So testing wise, you'll really only see those AS and A levels, but IGCSE courses are sort of the pre-advanced courses, so nothing that we would be seeking college credit for. The standard recommended credit for our courses would be 3 or 4 credits for those physical sciences for the AS level, and then again, doubling that up for the A level. So doing an additional year, then they should receive those 6 credits as well. So we can advance. And so it's not just us that say that, but some other credential evaluators as well are supporting that recommendation. And we'll advance to the next slide. Won't touch too much on the next one. So similarly, we have 33 of our courses are reviewed by the American Council on Education. That supports, of course, that E that you all give credit for and higher, as well as generally those 3 to 4 credits for the AS level. Or more for some of our advanced level courses. Some of the advanced level courses actually have recommendations for higher level content as well. But these are really good resources and guides and starting places when looking for sort of where to apply and how to apply credit. And if you advance to the next slide, this just gives you a quick rundown of what those are. I will say the biggest gaps, if you're looking at these, are our languages. So we went through syllabus updates for all of our languages. And for ACE recommendations, you must have at least a year of testing. And so we're sort of in the process of those having been rolled out. So you'll see that as some of those gaps missing there as well. And so we'll advance to the next slide. And here are just some examples on a couple of campuses and charts that they already have on their websites. And so some things that we can work with you on are really ensuring that the AS and the A level are not duplicate credits. And so I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings that campuses tend to have, is not understanding the difference between the AS and the A level. And so they may be giving the same course credit for the AS and for the A level, or sometimes they get inverted and the A level gets 3 credits and the AS level gets 6 credits. They're similar enough in name that they can sometimes get a little bit confusing. And so that's one thing that myself or Nancy are more than happy to work with campuses on, is looking at what you already have in place, offering recommendations on specific courses, and kind of doing that cleanup. So it's very easy for these to get mixed matched or crossed over sometimes. So very happy to do that. And we really do want to work with you on aligning these courses to major requirements where possible, ensuring that they're meeting Gen Ed requirements as well, and ensuring that you're not only creating these charts, but updating both T-Rex and our campus web pages. So much like AP and IB, we also have a database for all of our recognitions policies. And so we just want to make sure that wherever you have your policies posted, is that they're matched and that they are the same policies. So when students inevitably use Google or AI to find something, that all of the information is correct as well. And then we also are happy to provide sort of those core subjects and a place to start. So we're definitely not asking, run forth with all 55 courses, but we're happy to help you on a place to start. So we have a good list of our sort of core 20 to work with as well. And then we'll advance to the next slide. And this is something that is very important, knowing that we have our New York City public school students that will be testing for the first time this year, is that campuses sign up for Cambridge International Direct, or CI Direct. You can scan the barcode here, or you can click the link later. Happy to send it to you as well. But what this is a service for you to either verify student scores. So if you have copies of results and you just want to verify that that document is real, you can verify those there. But this is also where campuses will receive our transcripts for our US-based students digitally. It is the only way to receive those transcripts. So here's a list that Nancy pulled for me. And so you can see all of the campuses listed there with no number on the right-hand column. That means you do not have a CI Direct account, which means you cannot receive our transcripts. So if there's anything you do today from this meeting, I would recommend for Cambridge that you at least sign up for Cambridge International Direct so that we can ensure our students can get you their scores. And we'll move to the next two. You can advance to. And I'll talk very quickly about our new courses. We can go to the next slide. And so this is something we're very excited about. We can back it up to one, to the new AS and A-level history offerings. And so this is our newest set of courses for our US high schools. And so we'll have first testing of these courses next June 2027. So for students enrolling in fall 2027. But we have all of the resources available to you to review these courses, our syllabi, sample test papers, things of that nature. Happy to send those to you. But we have 2 US history courses at the AS level only. And then we also will have a separate AS and A-level European and International History as well. So very excited about those courses, and very much encourage you, if you're only looking at the AICE recommendations, that you also look at our US history syllabi that are rolling out next year as well. And we can advance to the next slide, and you can, yeah, that's great. And so one thing I wanted to talk about as well, I know there's a lot of chatter about career pathways, CTE, things of that nature. And so this is just a quick slide, something that we do when we work with our schools that have career academies. We have many existing syllabi as well, some that are quite unique, like travel and tourism, marine science, things of that nature. And so we work with our schools and our career academies within those schools to create career pathways with our existing courses and programs as well. And happy to work with CUNY campuses on connecting you to those schools if you have particular degree programs that might align best with some CTE pathways. And we can just advance to the next two slides as well. We can skip this one. And so I'll leave you, I know we're running on time, so I'll leave you with a couple of resources here. And so this is just a quick screenshot of our webpage where we have various university showcases. So as universities and college campuses have their recognition statements put into our database and work on their credit charts, we're happy to showcase various campuses here that our students use in their search process, as various other resources as well. And then we can just go through the next two slides to also just say, I know you've had a lot of information here today, and if you're like me, sometimes you sit in on a meeting, everything's great, and 3 days later, you've forgotten a lot of it. So we also have some training videos on our website, some places that you can go for some quick refreshers on whether you're looking at documentation, understanding our approach to assessment as well. And so I want to make sure that we have time for questions. And so I will pause there and make sure that we have time for questions.
Thank you so much. I am going to stop sharing my screen. But now is the time for Q&A. I haven't had a chance to look at the chat, but thank you guys so much for presenting all of that information. It was a lot of information, but very beneficial. And hopefully there are some good questions. So now the floor is to the participants to see what everyone is thinking or if what's lingering in our minds here. So let me just review the chat and see. We have a lot of introductions here. So thank you guys for adding your information. I'm just going to review. You can also come off mute if you want to and ask what you need to. Not seeing too many questions in the chat, a lot of introductions.
I like to say something. Mine really isn't a question, it's more of a statement. I do think this was very helpful. I do plan to reach out to all three platforms just so that way I can ensure that City Tech is up to date with our equivalencies. And I also appreciate the explanation between the SL and the HL regarding the IB, because that was always a concerning question of mine. And so I just want to say thank you for this presentation.
Thank you for that feedback. And I'm sure our colleagues are more than eager to help you guys and other campuses as well to evaluate and answer those questions, especially with all the stuff that we have looking forward to from each organization.
I'll just jump in and offer that we offered the hours part because it is something that, folks try to focus on in equivalencies, but the SL and HL courses actually have their own full course objective dimensions. And so, a 2-year IB biology course, is a very substantial offering. But a 1-year IB biology course that ends with both internal and external assessments that are multi-hour, is a very rich educational experience.
I'll add to that, to David's comment that we provide, and it's in the links of the appendix, access to all of our subject guides. They've just been updated for the 2025 set. So if you or your faculty members need to look at those and review them, that link is there, but you can also contact me directly if you need additional information.
And I'll add to that, we also make all of our course and exam descriptions available, and I'll be glad to put that link in the chat. My browser's a little bit slow when I'm on Zoom, but if it comes up, I'll do it here, and if not, I'll send it as a follow-up.
Great, thank you. So any other comments or feedback, concerns, any more interest in explaining any of the forthcoming exams or program expansion? We do have a few more slides to get through, just as a wrap up, but if you guys have any other lingering questions.
While we wait for somebody to jump in, one thing that I am going to do right now, I'm going to drop our configuration manual into the chat. So this is the guidance for how all different forms of CPL equivalencies should be entered into CUNY first, so that they show up in Transfer Explorer. And the first like the earliest section of guidance is for standardized exams. And as I said at the beginning, and as we've talked about a little bit, some colleges may not have revisited this information since 2021. It may be set there, and you just may not have looked back at it. So, just if anybody is sort of wondering, like, how do we actually update these if we do make different determinations? I just wanted to make sure that that people have access to that. And if you have any issue, with that information on your campus and implementation, please feel free to reach out to Angelica and I.
Thank you for that. So, for the sake of time, if there are any other questions, drop them in the chat. And if I don't see it, then Alyssa, please let me know. But I'm going to share my screen again, and we are going to just, oh, hold on. Looks like we got a question. Could you please tell me who on my campus is responsible for registering the Cambridge International Direct Student Results Verification Service? I'd be happy to share the information with my colleagues. And that is from Edith Rosario.
Yes. Hi, Edith. Thanks for the question. Yes, so CI Direct accounts, you can have up to 6 users. Really, it's whoever you feel is best suited for that. I would recommend generally someone in a registrar's office, as well as enrollment or admissions office. I think really the best person is perhaps also whoever is in charge of downloading documents and credentials and testing would be a good start. But we can also reach out and get you all signed up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to share my screen, but if any more questions pop up in the chat, just Alyssa, please feel free to just interrupt me. So, okay, so to kind of give an overview of what was discussed today, and all the information that was shared with our three partner organizations, we can definitely project that we will have expanded numbers of students that are going to be entering CUNY within the next coming academic year and future years with more exam-based credentials under their belt. And so one of the concerns or areas that we would love the campuses to consider are how the varying ways that the credit and exams for the credits for the exams are fitting into the major requirements, right? There are maybe some inconsistencies in how the credits are being applied, and then that causes or can lead to equity concerns. And we want to make sure that we are staying up to date and abreast of all of the new progress and what is coming from these organizations so that we can best meet the student needs and make sure those pathways are clear. So joining meetings like this, when we have opportunities to kind of pick the brains of the people behind these exams, is really, really important and crucial for us to participate and collaborate in. When we think about the growth of these exams, AP, IB, and Cambridge, it is such a unique opportunity and an important opportunity for all of our campuses to revisit how the credit is being applied for our students. And because we have so many exams and programs that are coming to fruition and everything is really fast changing, we want to make sure that we are updating our information across the board. And so that means consistent and transparent information sharing for our advisement teams and our departments, to make sure that everyone is on the same page, communication and knowledge is streamlined and shared adequately and efficiently so that everybody knows what's what, because you don't know what you don't know. Right. And that's why, again, attending these types of meetings that we are so grateful to be able to facilitate is really important in getting the shared knowledge and also best practices of how to approach reviewing the scores and credit applicability for our students. So, what we would love for you guys to take away from this meeting today is a kind of call to action. Jimmy did hit a bunch of these points during the end of his presentation, so thank you for that. But we would love for you guys to regularly review what the equivalencies are that exist in your campuses and in your departments, to make sure that we are reflecting accurately the changes that are happening in these organizations and for these exams and credentials. And again, Jimmy also mentioned we would love for you guys to potentially revisit how the credits are being applied specifically for major requirements, right? Not just for them going to elective credits that may not help boost the momentum for student progression to a degree attainment, but where we can apply them in the flexible Common Core or general ed requirements, and again, major requirements as necessary. That is really the focus of what we would love to see progress for our campuses across the university. And again, we would love for you guys to share this information with your colleagues and your peers across the campus and in your departments that maybe weren't able to attend today. But again, sharing this information is really important so that we can make sure that the information is streamlined and that the credit is applied appropriately. And that is when the knowledge is best shared between those who are doing the work, which are you guys, the advisors. And so another area is of sharing this information is not just speaking about it, but if you are able to posting up clear, updated information about the exams, the credit scoring and evaluating, as well as how CPL and the policy that Alyssa also provided, and we have accessible on our website, how you should be able to evaluate, assess, and interpret those policies pertaining to the specific scores and implement them for the students. And again, if there's any questions on any of this stuff, please feel free to reach out to our office and any of our colleagues. And finally, participate in more meetings like this. We really try to open up the floor for these types of conversations to happen as often as we can. And we do also offer PD sessions. So just trying to create environments for us to share those best practices and learn from each other so that we can all continue a very cohesive and holistic support system for the students that are coming into CUNY. So these are some websites and sources. You will receive the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to access these hyperlinks as well after the meeting. And then these are the contacts for all of our colleagues that joined us today. Again, they were also added in the chat, so you feel free to screenshot if you need to, but we will also share them as well. And thank you guys for being so gracious and flexible and willing to be point people for your organizations for us to reach out to. And then really quickly, we do have IB added a few resources here. Their goal is to identify any key decision makers on campuses so that they can support the expanding of their credit review processes and create a more collaborative working partnership with campuses specifically. As Clay mentioned, CUNY is noted as a system in their database, and they would love to have individual campuses branched out. So please, please, please feel free to take advantage of that opportunity. There are some QR codes if you want to scan that now. There are a few others, but these are the resources that Clay added in. And again, it will be part of the whole PowerPoint as well. And then this is the newsletter for IB. So if you want to scan that so that you can, again, stay up to date and get the newsletters directly to your email to find out about any updates of what's happening. And then lastly is the brochures for the universities as well with the hyperlink as well. So if you don't get to scan the code, no worries. We will definitely share that out for you guys. So I'm going to stop sharing again. Okay, just double checking the chat. No new questions. So if there are any other questions, there's still a few minutes on the clock. Please feel free if and again, just a very, very big thank you for all you guys to make time for us. I know especially you guys may not be in the same state. I know Nancy's in Washington, so it's probably still in the morning or early morning, early afternoon for you. So again, thank you for your flexibility, your patience, and your support to be collaborative and again, create this cohesive network of student support. Like the work that we do and the passion that we share is really what brings us all together and makes what we do work in the long run. So definitely appreciate all of that.
Great. Thank you so much, Angelica, and to all of our presenters and for all of our colleagues from across the university. Thank you all, and we will be sharing our materials shortly.
Thank you guys. Hope you enjoy the weekend and the rest of the day. Bye.